Welcome to Africa Speaks. I'm Pamela Anchang. I would like to welcome to Africa Speaks one of Africa's most compelling women in travel and tourism for Africa, Sandrine Mailli. She is the sales account manager for Ethiopian Airlines, has worked as a global events director for an event marketing and communications agency. For over 20 years, Sandrine has traveled the world planning meetings and supporting client contract demands, including small and large corporations, U.S. and foreign governments, federal contractors, as well as several associations and high-profile entertainers. She is a polyglot who's fluent in French, English, Spanish, and Amharic. An unbelievable talent. Welcome to the show, Sandrine.
Thank you for having me, Miss Anchang.
It's such a pleasure. You are all these things, but let's take it from how you come along speaking all these languages. Tell me a little bit about your origins.
Well, originally I'm from Cameroon. Both of my parents are from Cameroon. I was born in France, and I grew up in Ethiopia, where I went to elementary and high school. And after that, I came to the U.S. For my university studies. So the French comes from being born in France and speaking French at home. The Amharic, of course, the national language of Ethiopia, from living there all those years. And then the Spanish while I went to university in Florida.
My gosh, you know, a lot of people could have traveled all these places and not speak the language. I think you're just born charismatic and have a good ear for language. Don't you agree?
I think that's true. I think we have languages in my family.
Right.
A lot of us actually have that talent, and we certainly appreciate it very much, and it's, you know, come in handy over the years.
I know it served you well.
Indeed. And it's also, I think for me, immersing myself in the culture and in the country where I am has also helped me develop this skill further, if you will.
I know. So tell me a little bit about your life growing up in Ethiopia, because as an African child, we all know about what Ethiopia represents. What did you know the magnitude of what Ethiopia stood for? How was that?
Well, of course, you know, at the time when I lived there, from the 80s until the mid-90s, I had no idea of its magnitude. All I know is that when I went there, I was barely 8 years old.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. All my friends today are people that I met at that time.
Yeah.
We've stayed in contact, and it was a great experience, really. There was a little bit of turmoil in the country at that time, but as diplomats or children of diplomats, we were a little bit shielded from that. And things were pretty stable in the capital of Addis Ababa.
You know, most people don't know that Ethiopia is one of those countries that was really never colonized. That's true.
That is true. Never colonized. The Italians tried really hard. There were several battles that were fought hard and won by Ethiopia. So yes, it is the only country in Africa that was never colonized, and we are very proud of that.
There is something to be proud of, to know that African countries can have something to look up to. So what are some of the key things that people don't know about Ethiopia?
Well, what they don't know?
Yes. Like what's so special about Ethiopia?
I'm biased.
No, go for it.
So I think everything is special about Ethiopia.
Yes.
I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be here. It's a beautiful country. The weather is amazing. The people are incredible. There's great culture, great food, great coffee. It's a country, big country with lots of people, very hardworking, very patriotic. They love their countries. They've worked so hard to develop it. I get there quite often, and every time I do, I'm amazed at all the development that has taken place. How much things have changed, you know, from the last visit to the next one. Everybody is immersed into development. You know, they want to rebrand and they want to, you know, develop, you know, so that members of the diaspora can be proud of their countries when they return, and so that the people who live them themselves have access to a bunch of different things and the comforts that you would find overseas, for example.
And it just so happens to be the headquarters of the African Union.
Indeed, it has been there for over 50 years.
That's incredible. I always wondered, I don't want to mess up my history, so I'm not going to go into how did that come about, but Ethiopia is also the seat of where the first human being is said to be resting. This Lucy
Yes.
story.
Lucy,
Yeah.
also known as Dinkinesh,
Okay.
is one of the oldest human bones, if you will, that were found in Ethiopia many, many thousands of years ago.
Like I said, quite a compelling country. And you're
Indeed.
compelling yourself. You know, when I say everything tourism is Sandrine Mailli. So you have this out-of-the-box thinking, travel, tourism, and all this. What is it that made you get into travel and tourism?
You know, it's really funny how that came about. I never really wanted to be in travel and tourism. My mother, working for the African Union for, 100 years, it seemed, I saw her traveling, and I saw her going to all these fancy UN and African Union meetings. At the time, the African Union was the Organization of African Unity. And so I wanted to be like my mother. I wanted to, wear fancy clothes and have all these beautiful African outfits made and travel to all these fancy meetings in Djibouti and Tripoli and Vienna. And so I wanted to be a translator or an interpreter. But in Cameroon, we come from an area called Kribi, where my family has a small hotel. And so it was decided that I was going to study hotel and restaurant management so that one day I would, return home to run this establishment. And so when I came to the US, that's what I did. I studied hospitality management, tourism.
Did you like it because you say it was established? Who established that? Or is it something you wanted to do yourself?
At the time, I didn't, that was not my preference, because I knew I always wanted to travel. I knew I always wanted to be around, people of diverse cultures, diverse backgrounds, etc. And I felt that that would give me the best platform to do that. And so it's funny that we ended up here today. In a place where I'm able to combine everything I've always wanted to do.
It's almost as if the universe was listening anyway.
I guess.
And are you loving this now?
I am loving this.
So maybe parents had some foresight about things you didn't know.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did. I really think that they did.
Yeah, so as someone that's done global events, and what is that like? Tell me a little bit about, that kind of work. What kind of projects did you embark on?
Wow, we were doing quite a lot of things. I've worked with several organizations in the past, and a few years ago I decided to create my own. So while I was doing that, I started in Washington, D.C., working on all kinds of events, medical events, international events, diplomatic events, pharmaceutical events for some pharmaceutical clients, etc., which took me to travel to all these places. As far as what it takes, I think it's a lot of organization and a lot of dedication. I mean, you really have to be into what you do. It's, you need to prepare, as much as possible, review. There's a lot of data, a lot of different personalities are involved, a lot of different, types of people are involved, and you have to have the patience to deal with all of that, and then just keep the end goal in mind.
That's really interesting. So is it something that you go to school for, and there are the jobs there, or do you have to create your own opportunities?
That is really, really funny because it's a great question, Pam. People have always asked me that. So how did you end up doing this? How did this happen? And now, or I should say for the last 15, 20 years or so, you can go to school for event management, or you can't go to school, for that sector of, travel, tourism, management, or even PR, if you would. But back when I started, no. It wasn't a major per se in school. It's just something that I fell into, and it's funny how the universe gives you what you need.
I'm curious to know, as someone that's a travel, everything travel is Sandrine Mailli. For people that want to go to Africa, what do they need to know? How are they supposed to prepare for a trip like that?
I mean, it depends who's going first. Is it a group of young students from a university that are going for the first time? Is it people of African descent that are going back? Is it business professionals who are going for a conference or something of that nature? So it really just depends. But I think the mindset is going to have a lot to do with it. You need to know what you're going for. You need to understand that, you're not going to be able to maybe hail a cab as easy or run into Starbucks to get your latte. You need to be patient. You need to be prepared. There's a lot of things that you might need to bring. It also depends on where you're going.
You're right. It depends on where you're going, because some countries like Ghana, I understand, have like cafes and like a McDonald's, I think, whereas some other countries don't have that kind of situation. Depends on if you're of African descent. What are some of the misconceptions about going to Africa that sometimes is out there?
Oh, my sister, there's so many of them I don't know where to start. Sometimes I'm at the airport working a flight and people will say, oh, do I have time to run to the restaurant to get food? I said, what for? Well, we're about to get on this flight. It's a 17-hour flight. And somebody told us that there's no food. You know, who told you that we're going to fly you anywhere and not feed you for 17 hours? So there's a lot of things. I don't know where people get all this information from. But there's a lot of misinformation. And the job that we have to do as citizens of the world, all of us really, is to educate. I mean, we have to tell people the truth, you know, so that we set their expectations right. We have to communicate also at a very young age to our children and all the young ones. Tell them exactly what it's like, what to expect, and so that they can have the right expectations.
I'm glad you said that. I'm really glad you said that, because sometimes our children are scared to go back, to go home, to go to Africa because of what's been put on the news. Isn't it kind of like, I could be scared living here with all the gunshots and all those things? Don't you agree?
Absolutely. We also have to deal with quite a bit of that sometimes. Young children who are afraid to go because they were told you'll be eaten by a lion, you'll be, you know, there'll be floods, there's diseases. When you come back, your school here is not going to accept you because you've been to Africa and you're going to need all these shots. And so for these young, fragile minds, you know, to receive this kind of information is really disheartening. And we just need to work really hard at making sure that the right information is communicated out there. And that, especially the young ones who are so fragile, who might not, you know how to access the right information.
I want to know what's the craziest thing someone has ever asked you, because I have been asked, do you live on trees? Do you have lions behind your house? What these people who want to travel to Africa for the first time need to know about those kinds of stigmatizing narratives about the continent.
What do they need to know? I mean, they need to know that they're going to be okay. What I tell them when they come to me with weird questions is, you should buy a one-way ticket because I don't think you're coming back. They've been lying to you your entire life. Once you go there, you're not going to want to come back. And I know for me, every time I go, it's really hard to come back. And then I have to remind myself that, wait, you actually have family on this side. So I have to come back for that. But otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
The great food, great weather. Come on now. You can't beat that. So now I'm really curious to know about this awesome company that you work for, Ethiopian Airlines. How did you, you grew up in Ethiopia, but that doesn't mean you're going to work for Ethiopian Airlines. Tell me how this come about and what's the experience like.
Ethiopian Airlines has been flying to and from the United States for over 30 years. Ethiopian Airlines is the fastest growing company in Africa and one of the largest also. It's a great company. I'm very, very, very excited to be here. And I joined almost 4 years ago, shortly after they opened the route to Newark in New Jersey to serve the New York area. So I heard about the opportunity, I applied, and the rest is history.
It certainly is history because you've been doing some really amazing work. But I want to know, Ethiopian Airlines is really right now competitive with all other international airlines on the West, and people are shocked. How did Ethiopian Airlines get to be such a force?
It goes back to something that I've said a little bit earlier on. Ethiopians are very hard-working people. Ethiopians are exceptionally proud people. And to have a company that is doing so well, you have to also take a look at the leadership. We have amazing leadership. Our CEO, our current CEO, is amazing. Our previous CEOs have been wonderful people, visionaries really, who put their love of country first. And because of that, we are here where we are today. This company has run uninterrupted for nearly 74 years. Uninterrupted. It's unheard of in the continent. We're working very hard. We're very proud. We are held to really high standards. and we are very competitive indeed.
74 years, did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought I wasn't listening.
Nope, you haven't missed it.
What? 74 years? No, that's something to be proud of. So what can someone expect on a flight, on an Ethiopian Airlines flight, in terms of quality and stuff?
The quality is amazing. We have the latest state-of-the-art products. We fly for our long hauls to and from Africa. We fly the 777, the 777, or the 787 Dreamliner, which is an amazing aircraft. It is very fuel efficient, also provides exceptional comfort, which leads to good rest during the flight and minimizes also the effect of jet lag upon arrival. So for our shorter flights on the continent, we use a variety of equipment, also very well adapted for that type of travel.
That's amazing. That's truly amazing. Do you go to all the countries, all African countries, or is it just some routes?
We fly, I can say, comfortably to about probably 80% of Africa. You know, we're in the west, we are in the south, also in the east. As far as North Africa, we fly to Cairo and a few other countries.
Okay, which are the fun places to go?
Wow, it's a lot of fun. And, you know, of course, you know where I have to start, right? Currently at Ethiopian Airlines, we're doing some wonderful promotions with regards to, you know, just so that people can learn a little more about the country. I mean, they already know about the airline. They're using us. They're making us number one, and we're very grateful and appreciative for that. And so now we have extended these packages where passengers have the opportunity to make a stopover in Addis. So you get there, you're on your way to for example, say you're going to Cameroon. Now you can go to Cameroon via Addis, and we encourage you to stay there for 2-3 days at the same cost. So you get to discover, yes ma'am, the beautiful country, discover the culture. We have several packages. You can do city tours. You can go see how they make leather handbags and shoes. You can visit various museums, so many things you can do. You can go on the outskirts of town. You can go 2-3 hours away. You can fly to another in-country destinations, you know, to go see the beautiful Tigray mountains, or go to, you know, Lalibela or Aksum. I mean, so much you can do. It's incredible, and it's working really well. And a lot of people are coming to know about this and are taking advantage of these opportunities.
That is awesome. I need a ticket. Right after this.
No problem.
Right after this,
we will take care of that for you. It is our pleasure.
What other countries in Africa are really great destinations as well?
Some of our partners where we operate out of as secondary hubs, like Lomé, for example. It's coming up on the map.
Lomé, really Togo.
Well. Lomé, Togo, indeed. The flights from the New York area, from Newark, I should say, go to Lomé. And then as of last June, we opened Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire. That is being served currently via JFK. Those are great destinations also that people are more interested in as we go along.
You know, while we're talking about traveling and destinations, we want to know about seasons. Talk about this African seasons, because you don't want to be wanting to go for a safari and then it's not there you go. So what are the seasons that people should pay attention to?
Well, again, it depends where you're going. You know, are you going to see the Maasai in Kenya, or are you going to, you know, the Seychelles, you know, for a festival or something? It just depends on where you're going and the purposes of your trip. We encourage people to do their research first, and then once they've narrowed down the dates, they can come to us for additional advice in terms of you know, some of the destinations that we fly to. There are several major holidays and major festivals in Ethiopia. For example, you know, the country has a different calendar. There are 13 months in the year. I don't know if you knew that. So yes, I mean, there's a lot of information to be shared out there. For example, the different holidays, festivals and things. People, for example, you know, when they think about high season, they might think, oh, it's December. Whereas in some regions, for example, in Ethiopia, Christmas is on January 7th. The New Year is September 11th. There are 13 months in the Ethiopian calendar. So many holidays, so many festivals. So we have travel specialists who are waiting to provide passengers and travelers with all the information that they need about the best time to come to visit the country, as well as other African destinations.
As a tourism and travel expert, is there a guide somewhere, maybe online, that someone can check out these things? Do you know?
Of course. The internet is a great resource sometimes. So there's great information out there, but we also have great information available on our website, ethiopianairlines.com. We have a package specialist entity within Ethiopian Airlines, and you can find them at ethiopianholidays.com. They're part of Ethiopian Airlines, and their specialty is packages to destinations near and far. Whether you're going to Dubai, whether you're going to do a safari, whether you're organizing a trip of hikers to Mount Kilimanjaro, this is what they do, and they help you put the packages together. They're able to work with any budget, etc.
Or even check with your travel agent.
Absolutely.
Might know. Wow. You know this thing about Ethiopia having 13 months in a year. How is that? You grew up there, so I'm sure you know. That's kind of odd.
No, it's not odd. It's just like you can be sitting on the other side of the fence and thinking that having 12 months it's odd. You know, that's just how it is. That 13th month, by the way, is 1 week long.
Oh, really?
Now we're getting strange.
Now we're getting okay. Well, that's a good trivia right there.
Right.
That's a good trivia.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Sandrine, the businesswoman, the mother, everything. So how do you manage all of this, Mama, your mother, and your businesswoman, your wife, in today's world? Tell me how far we women have come.
We have come a long, long way. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It hasn't been easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. You know, women are resilient, women are strong, women are powerful. Last week during the General Assembly, it was so exciting, so motivating to see so many strong, powerful, confident women, you know, going about their business while being, you know, wives, mothers, sisters, daughters, and all the good things that we all are. I think, again, it takes organization, it takes patience, and it takes also that your surrounding understands who you are and give you the support that you need. I am exceptionally fortunate that, you know, as I'm going around conquering the world, I have great family support, without whom none of the things I do would be possible.
That's amazing. And, you know, speaking of women and leadership, we don't have many, especially in Africa, women in certain positions, but we have the Ethiopian president is a female.
Yes, she is.
Ethiopia is just a pace setter in a lot of things. I know we have had Mrs. Sirleaf Johnson. We do have, we've had some opportunities, but this is, we always have to acknowledge, especially for the African woman. How do you think the African woman has evolved in terms of, on the global stage, her position in effecting impact?
We're doing a lot. You know, we're working a lot harder than we're moving up the ladder. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to figure out, but I think you're right.
Okay. So, I mean, for all the efforts that we're putting out there, I don't think that we are anywhere near where we need to be in terms of our accomplishment and in terms of our merit. But we certainly come a long way. This weekend, we had the opportunity to welcome the Ethiopian president here, Her Excellency Sahle-Work Gebre. It's such a pleasure. She's a consummate diplomat, a wonderful lady with a lot of insight into everything, and she is really the pride of Africa.
Do you think if Africa were to have more female leaders, maybe we could do better? I mean, we're doing great, but I think we could do better, especially in terms of leadership.
You know, because there are so many great men also on the planet and in Africa, I always shy away from saying, you know, women, we should take over everything and run everything. We certainly could, and I think we would do a fantastic job at it, but it's not necessary. I think we can share the gold, if you will.
You know, I'm going to say, maybe you're right. Because you're doing it here and making it happen. So what's next for Miss Sandrine Mailli?
What is next? Just because my plans never work out, I've decided to walk by faith and go where God will lead me. Every day is a challenge. Every day is a big win. And I'm just going to go and see what happens next. I have certainly a lot of things that I'm working on, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and we will see what that is.
Awesome. You've just been so amazing.
Thank you so much, Pamela. My pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And that does it for us. Thank you so much for watching. This is Pamela Anchang on Africa Speaks.